Well, hello, panelists, impromptu panelists. I would like everybody to introduce themselves. I'm Cary Broussard, and we are part of the Cinderella CEO community, dubbed C2CEO, with my colleague, Faye Jackson, and friends and colleagues, Leslie Grossman as well, and Jamelia Lehn. Welcome, everybody.
Well, thank you.
Hello.
So today is Martin Luther King Day, and I'm going to share my screen today being January 17th, 2022. I know we can't believe that, but it's true. So would you all, as I'm sharing my screen, like to go around our circle, and let's see if you can see my PowerPoint. Let's see. Could you go around and tell me how you're feeling today on Martin Luther King Day on a scale of 0 to 3? 0 being meh, 1 being fair, I feel fair, 2 good, and 3 great. How are you feeling today? And please introduce yourselves again and what you're doing. Faye,
Okay,
you want to start?
I will, thank you. All right, so I am Faye Jackson, and I am delighted to be in this circle. So thank you for allowing me to come into the circle. And so I guess to answer the question, how am I feeling today? Honestly and truly, it's kind of meh. You know, I think I'm actually feeling just about a 1.5 today. And the reason for that, I think, and I love this slide, Cary, go through what you go through, is that we're still struggling with voting. And that's problematic for me. And so I think that today, while on the one hand, we can celebrate growth, there is so much work that has to be done to build this just world. And so today, I think is a great day of reflection, but it also is this day to really look at the to-do list. And not just look at the to-do list, but look at the things that I have to do personally to strike some things off of the to-do list. So that's my personal charge to me, to take this day to really, yes, reflect, remember, but to also make a plan as to what I have to do and what I can do.
Thank you, Faye. And I'd love to hear some of the things when we come back around to you, what you think would be helpful for us all to do. Leslie, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Leslie Grossman, and I am so happy to be here. Cary, I've known Cary for more years than I can count on 2 hands, and that has been my good fortune in life. So I am so happy to be here. And I guess that I have to say that when I listen to Faye, my number goes down, but when I arrived, I was a 3 because, well, you reminded me about how much work there is for us to do. But when I arrived, I was 3, but for a very good reason. Because first of all, I was inspired this morning, and I shared it up on LinkedIn, by a CBS segment they did on Martin Luther King's mother, which I thought was quite amazing. And again, showed me reminded me how long we have come from as women, and also the impact that women as mothers make. And that made me feel very positive. And then I invited my little granddaughter, who's 4 years old, to come up here, who's here in my home right now, but she's with her grandpa right now. So she might come running in here any minute. So when I'm with her, I'm always a at my highest level, because that gives me hope for the future. As bleak as things are, and I get very upset. My husband and I are always saying, oh, we're so upset about what's going on with the voter rights bill, with this bill, with that bill. And then we see our granddaughter and we say, we're just going to try to work harder for her future and do what we can. So I think that to the point of what Cary shared here, grow through what you go through. We're going through a very trying time right now for a number of reasons. But hopefully, I pray that we grow through that and we can make a difference and change the world, just like Martin Luther King did, the major inroads that his life spurred on, and so many others, not only him. And I hope that that's what's going on right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the key word for me there, Leslie, that you spoke was hope.
Yeah.
Hope. Because truly we do have to grow through what we go through. And the only reason why we move through is the hope of something better and brighter. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
So
for
you look,
sharing that.
you have raised my rating. So thank you. Jamelia, we're waiting for that mountaintop experience now.
I don't know if I can give it to you, but I am Jamelia Lehn, and I am feeling, as a person, I'm feeling a 3. I'm feeling great. As far as MLK Day, probably a 2. Similar to Faye, you would want us to, well, we would want to feel like we were much further, but walking and experiencing life every day kind of, you know, just makes you, I mean, you know that we're not as far as we should be. And it's especially in the whole entrepreneur world, you're opened up to a lot more than you are probably in corporate, where things are set up for you and you walk into an environment that's already established. When you're trying to establish it for yourself, you kind of see that, you know, it's not a level playing field, and you have to work a whole lot harder to gain access and opportunity to things that others do not have to work as hard for. So, yeah. We're not there yet.
Grow through what you go through really speaks to the entrepreneur.
Yeah. So about a 2. The good thing is, and where that hope comes in, is we all individually can do our part, you know, to make that ripple in the ocean and make it better. So that's the good thing.
Yeah.
But that's where the number 2 is. So I don't see it as, you know, going backwards, but seeing us get closer to that 3 if we all, you know, continue to do our part. We don't know how far off that is, but it's that hope of getting to that number 3 that makes it worthwhile and makes it, you know, something to keep reaching towards. So
Absolutely.
that's how I feel about it.
I love it. I love it. And it is very, you're inspiring me. I would say my, to just add on to what everyone has said, I feel today maybe a 2.5, that there is, I feel great, kind of to what Jamelia said. I feel great. The fact that I'm here on this recording with 3 people I have such admiration for and connectivity with. So thank you. Thank you. And I think just being on this discussion, it really uplifts me to a 3, because even today I'll go do some things that I think will, to Faye's point, that I need to do to be part of Martin Luther King Day and celebrate and reflect, but to be with you all, and hopefully people that are listening to this or watching it. I think the connectivity, especially during the pandemic, is so important to me, and I feel to others that we, we can connect during this time with these ideas we have and these passions we have around Martin Luther King's vision and legacy. And so I'd like to share some of his quotes. And if you're watching this is, and maybe we can read these 4 quotes and then talk about them. Would that be okay with you all?
Sounds like a plan.
So here's one that I think is it's become my favorite. We have flown the air like birds and swum the sea like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth like brothers. I just think that's so poetic. Faye, do you want to read this?
Okay. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Leslie, you want to read this one?
Sure. The ultimate measure of a man or woman is not where he or she stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he and she stand at times of challenge and controversy.
And here we are. And then Jamelia.
Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend.
That one's very powerful to me. Do you all have any comments on, these were the 4 I picked. And just so you know, they came from this walk in San Diego. I've talked to Faye about this, that it's along the promenade in San Diego, and in the, it's kind of like the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There's this whole walk of MLK quotes that you can walk along the promenade and read while you're walking. It's actually very beautiful. So that's where they came from. So was there anything about these quotes that stood out to you all?
You know, I actually want to add a 5th quote.
Please do.
One of my favorite Dr. King quotes is, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that."
Wow.
And, that one just really, really resonates with me, because I think that our charge oftentimes is to, as my husband will say, take care of your little corner of the world. Be that light. Let our light just so shine that darkness runs from us. And I think, Leslie, in what you posted this morning on LinkedIn about Martin Luther King's mother, is shining light on the role, that unsung hero role that we as sheroes play in building our culture, establishing our values, and running the darkness away, by shining our lights. So I just think all of these, love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend. Just let your light shine.
Yeah. And at a time like this, I mean, he stood for, and all his quotes are about love, about caring, about respecting each other. And we so desperately need that at these times. We always need it, but it seems like we are going through a time where we need it more than ever, where so many people are being challenged by the darkness within them, I'm sorry to say, that seems to be coming out in disagreement and not, in anger. And we, more than I can recall personally in decades, just from media and what we read and what we see that's going on in the world, we need Dr. King's philosophy, his heartfulness more than ever toward each other, no matter what color, no matter what,
Right.
even people within their own race are not being kind to each other. You know, and it's just, we need this to celebrate him more than ever.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, I want to circle back really to our temperature check at the beginning of our conversation. So how you're feeling? And that quickly turned into us separating things, how we are feeling about self and how we are feeling about the conscious of community, or how we are feeling about this exact moment in time. And I think too that as people, as women in particular, we are, I don't want to say, I don't like the term code switching, but we recognize who we are as the women, the nurturers in the home and in the household, and keeping that place together. And then we step out into this world, and then we recognize that our place in that dynamic as well. And so it's just interesting to me that our temperature checks were varied in the personal space, and then varied in this is the cause, and how do we feel about that. But what I am most excited about that temperature check and us checking the pulse there is that we're like, yeah, we're doing okay right now. and even if sometimes we aren't, we have the circle. And then that circle can help us to regulate our temperature and shore us up enough to get to the place where we will be okay again.
Yeah.
So wise, Faye, so wise.
I think as people, we learn to compartmentalize, you know, to help us cope and get through, you know, what may be going on the outside. You know, because if we take it and we put it all together, you know, feeling like a 3 today might take you to a 1. And you can't always function, right, as a 1. So to be able to function, you got to put those things in compartments, right? That's how I've learned to cope with them, because I don't want to always be this person that's down. And if you tend to always look on the outside of what's going on the outside, you may truly be, you know, down all the time, because this world today is very sad.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. It's it can be very sad. And when I think about it, and I'll just move to the next slide. I grew up in Memphis. Again, I pointed out the painting behind me is a Memphis painting. But of course, you know, Martin Luther King was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis. And I think I was 9 years old, or about to turn 9. And so, you know, when I think about that time period and living in the city that he was assassinated, of course, I live in Dallas now, where JFK was assassinated, but just the sadness of those times and the violence, and how we, you know, how did we cope with it then? I mean, we had parents who protected us. Jamelia, were you even born? I don't know. But this has now been turned into the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, which is a very, very positive place. And there was controversy about it being built. There was controversy within the Black community and controversy within the white community. You know, should it be not commemorated? Should it be a place where, you know, was a place for people to live versus, you know, should it have been turned into a development for the Black community, where it could be a nice community for people to live, but it has turned into a national civil rights museum. Both sides of this, of the perspective on this, important, you know, whose voices were heard. The situation during, you know, this time period was a garbage strike, and it was a very, very volatile time in the city I was growing up in. And there were people in the white community that were very, not participating or positive about Martin Luther King. And then there was a group in the white community that was, and they also suffered because they wanted to do business together with the Black community. And you know, like the Oklahoma and areas of the country where it was Black businesses were put down and not supported. This is, you know, is this still going on? Yes, I would suppose yes. And Jamelia, I don't know if that's what you were kind of hinting at in the very beginning, not necessarily as an African-American person, but, you know, women, we're all experiencing issues in our own environments. But then I've been reading the articles, and you probably have too. This is what inspired this today for me, was this book, Goodnight Racism, which I'm so excited. It hasn't come out yet, but I want to read it because who doesn't know Goodnight Moon? It's a fabulous book, but this is the same author. I cannot pronounce his name effectively, I'm sure, but I'm going to say his last name is Kendi. But this is one of the books in Texas that is being looked at as being banned. Mm-hmm. And again, it's like, okay, here's the light that Faye mentioned that coming in, and then there is a darkness. So, you know, how are we going to manage through these times? And this is a movie. This is where I want to start next, is to ask you all to tell us about books and places and movies. This is a movie that I haven't seen yet, but John Lewis, Good Trouble, that I think maybe Leslie, you told me you've seen it, so I don't know. But so my next question to all of you, I just shared with you, you know, this book, this place that inspires me, which is incredible, the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, this book coming out, Goodnight Racism, and then the movie, John Lewis, Good Trouble. Can we go around the circle and you all tell us what maybe events or anything that's inspired you that we can look at as shining light on these issues on Martin Luther King Day?
I don't have my books ready, but I can go get, I have them on my books.
That's okay. Well, you shared the Good Morning America or the CBS This Morning story today about Martin Luther King's mother. I'm going to definitely check out that clip today. And thank you, Leslie. Are there any movies or books or articles that you all have seen, Faye or Jamelia, that you would recommend?
So the book, honestly, that immediately comes to mind is a children's book, but it's such a wonderful book, and it's called The Human Race by Jamie Curtis.
Oh, wow.
And that book, it starts out where they're just racing, but it really moves into discussions on racism and equity and inclusion. And it does it in such a way that leaves you really thinking, is there really a human race? You know, aren't we all a part of this human race? And then another book, and it's a children's book too, and I don't, in my mind right now, I'm not seeing the name of it, but it is blue dot, yellow dot. And in this story, there are these two dots that are separate, but they attend the same school. And these dots become friends and they touch one another. And so as they touch one another, you know, their spirits come forth, right? But blue dot and yellow dot touch one another and they become green. And so what begins to happen is that everyone is looking for blue dot and yellow dot, and then they find them playing together. Now, it's very simplistic, but it paints a picture of what could be when light drives out darkness and love drives out hate. And it doesn't mean that we don't maintain individual characteristics of blue and yellow, but it does say that we find points of cooperation, points of collaboration, points of unification. We find common ground. And so I really like both of those. And the third book that I'm reading now is actually a day book. And I read it 10 years ago. And so I'm just starting it again now, but it's called Simple Abundance. And it truly is just a wonderful day book of comfort and joy, with just gentle readings to help us reprogram our minds from seeking the tangible and almost being content where we are with the things and finding magic in the mundane. So way too much information,
No,
but
I
the
think
human race, red dot, green
concept of
dot.
that is you wake up and you might read one passage in the book. Yeah, I like that. Or when you go to sleep, or maybe you're having lunch. I like those. That's nice. Leslie and Jamelia, do you all have any you want to share? Thank you, Faye.
I mean, I ran while you were talking, forgive me for doing that, Faye, into my closet where I keep gifts that I send out to people, and 2 books that I give out that I send as gifts, and I have 2 still there. One is Anti-Racist Baby, written by the same author that you were talking about, Cary. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Ibram X. Kendi.
Thank you.
That's how I pronounce it. I'm not sure if it's correct. So this is one of them. And I love what it says on the back. I'll just read what's on the back cover. Anti-racist baby is bred, not born. Anti-racist baby is raised to make society transform. Anti-racist baby celebrates all our differences, uses words to talk about racism, understands that people aren't the problem, policies are. So it's a beautiful book. So I always send this to all my friends or their daughters that have babies, along with this book, which is Amanda Gorman's book. I don't know if you Change Sings, a children's anthem.
Nice.
And it's all poetry, of course. It's a poem with beautiful illustrations. And I really honor Amanda Gorman and the future of our world and young women changing the world. So these are the 2 that I give as gifts. And of course, my granddaughter has them too. My granddaughters and my grandson, I have 3 grandchildren, have these books.
And one on the way.
And one on the way, yes. So that's what I would share.
Thank you.
I don't really recall any books that I've read about racism. And in fact, I don't really like to read many books or watch many movies specifically about racism. Now, if I'm watching a movie that happens to have it in there, then yeah, but I don't really like specifically and purposefully try to watch movies about racism because it just sets me off.
Yeah.
So I'm really just an attendee right now with this
Understand.
conversation. But the movies that I have watched, like, I don't know, they like The Color Purple and Just Mercy, where people are treated, you know, a certain badly because of their color. And then they were in servant type position, you know, positions for, you know, white families.
Mhm.
You know, I just don't see how another human could be treated a certain way because of their skin color, as if we're not all human.
Yeah.
That just doesn't, you know, it's that whole love thing again. When people learn how to love and, you know, why we love, it's like that's when like the world's problems will be fixed. But you cannot love someone based on the color of their skin. Solely based on the color of their skin, you treat them like they're lower. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, as if they're not capable of learning and loving and doing just like the next person, solely based on the color of their skin. I never got it. So to watch movies like that and read the books, when you live it and you see it, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't really.
Amen. I totally understand.
I think as you were speaking, Jamelia, I'm feeling the passion, the emotion, and I think that's why I like romance movies, because they're neatly tied up with a bow at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of our historical movies are not. They tell us there is so much work to be done. Just Mercy is one. Crash is another one. They tell us there is work that is yet to be done.
Yeah.
And we have to be about the business to get it done. We just do. We don't get a pass on just saying we are aware and I'm comfy in my place and I'll go sit quietly. We don't get to do that because we are a part of the human race. And if we truly are trying to create this space in equity and create this space in inclusion, we have to act. And some of the ways that we act are sharing the stories. Mm-hmm. Some of the ways that we act are being a good neighbor. Some of the ways that we act are calling out right behavior and wrong behavior, so that we can all again come together to try to form the more perfect union, because it's not perfect and sometimes it hurts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. And I think you know, a vulnerable moment for me is the unlearning part of growing up in a society where you know, prejudice was in the community, sometimes in the home. I say the home, sometimes in our home, not necessarily invited in, but it crept in. And so the unlearning that, and Faye, you know, I use that term a lot, sometimes not really able to completely explain it, except that unlearning is something I think we have to either give ourselves an opportunity to do or to give others. So it's kind of like forgiveness, I suppose, but okay, that was something that occurred in our past. And this is unfortunately happening in the present, where I hope looking in the future that people may act a certain way right now or have a certain belief right now that is not helping humanity. But if we can look at, all right, the hope of if someone is believing something that we completely, at this point in our time in life, disagree with, can we give them a helping hand in understanding that that's not going to, I guess, take humanity forward in a positive way? I don't know. What do you all think about that?
I think, Cary, and I'm just kind of knee jerking here.
Yeah, do it.
There's
Knee
that
jerk.
word again that Leslie gave us at the top of the hour, hope.
Mhm.
You know, there is still that hope. And so for me, unlearning is forgiveness with accountability.
Mhm.
And sometimes that does not feel real good, but when we unlearn, we also have to own our part. And because we own our part, we can do things differently. We can be the change that we want to see in the world, right? That's what Gandhi says, be the change we want to see in the world. But we can only see it if we own the space and the place where we are. And I love that in what you said, Cary. You gave us this unlearning, this forgiveness with accountability, but it's based in hope. And it is that hope that there will indeed come this time where we can sing the freedom song that was sung during the civil rights period and needs to be sung again.
Mhm.
We shall overcome. But I think to some extent that song is incomplete because it says we shall overcome someday, but I almost look at it as we shall overcome with an ellipsis. What is it that we shall overcome? Shall we overcome darkness? Shall we overcome hate? Shall we overcome greed? Shall we overcome inequities? Shall we overcome elitism? Shall we overcome sexism? What is it that we shall overcome? And I think for each of us, what we have to overcome is deeply individual and deeply personal, but it is a call to action. Because remember the last lines in the song, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And I just challenge us to fill in the blank. What will we overcome?
Faye, I want to just add something to what you said, and that was very inspiring. And you have a beautiful voice, by the way.
Yes.
But the word that, maybe I started with hope, but what I really believe is what we need now is action. Because to me, we can't, I'm not a believer. I believe in hope, but only when it has action attached to it, because hope alone will not make the difference. And right now, and I try not to get political in my work, but you cannot help but get political. And the only thing I want to say is we need to make sure that we do have equality and that everyone can vote and that everyone, I think voting is at the heart of everything right now at this point. And being able to have the people in place that are representing us that stand by what the Constitution is all about and the truth. So I have to say that, and I know that I'm committed, in addition to the work that I do, which also is, lives in the place that we are all discussing right now, is really being active to support, to get the candidates elected fairly and everyone's votes counted and getting people to the polls.
Leslie, I can't believe your timing. It's impeccable. Rhetta Bowers has just joined us, who's running for office. Rhetta, can you hear us? Can you say a few words? I don't know.
I can hear you. I can't, I don't know that I can.
Here, I think I just got you promoted to panelist.
Oh, I love that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm just trying to figure out though, my camera, but
Oh, did we lose her? Anyway, Rhetta is running for office. There you go.
And I am here.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Thank you first, Cary, for inviting me. I am State Representative Rhetta Andrews Bowers. I represent House District 113. And I was trying hard to get on today. Cary asked me to join. And first, before I continue on, I want to say happy MLK Day to all of you. I want you to know that I was so enjoying, Faye, your part in the discussion. I just enjoyed, Leslie, what you were saying. I was typing in amen as you all were speaking of the action that has to be taken. And Cary, and I have known each other for quite some time. I think I'm humbled by the fact that Cary might have known me before I knew who she was, and she made me know that. But I am one of the freedom fighters who broke quorum in the last legislature and proudly went to DC, proudly walked off the floor twice because we just could not take it anymore. I was watching, I think that was you, Faye, that was sharing your books. And I know this is a book discussion, so I have a lot of my books that I've been inspired by this woman here lately, reading her, Speaking the Truth and Eloquent Thunder. This woman always leading from the outside. I got to hear Stacey Abrams in a conversation with Stacey Abrams at the Trust Theater soon, just recently, and she talked about, because we are the minority in the Texas House, you all know that we're 83 to 67, 67 strong Democrats, which is dwindling. The numbers are dwindling, but she talked about really being proud of the small gains and the little victories, because leading from the outside, we have to look at that and we have to be proud of what we did when we left the Texas House. Not only when we went to DC, but the first time as well. The first time we walked out the floor, I was one of the first, because I do, as a woman, I carry too many bags. So I had a couple of bags on the floor with me, and I looked at my desk mate and those around me, and I said, y'all, I think I better leave now, because it's really not going to be a good look when I try to walk out of here with all these bags. And so I grabbed my key, I took it out of my desk to lock my desk so no one could vote. And I just literally walked off, and I took a picture when I got outside the House chamber doors. I took a picture of my key just as my reminder that I'm really doing this. But, along the journey, I want to share this one. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee talked to us and read excerpts of John Lewis's Carry On. And so some of my colleagues gave me that on the
Right.
trail. These are the only other two I want to share with you. Martin Luther King, this one I picked up after we completed the quorum break in the summer. I had the opportunity getting back to the floor, trying to get back into those specials, but to go to Memphis and to go to the National Civil Rights Museum. And if I tell you my work was validated when I looked outside the museum and you're facing the hotel where Martin Luther King came to his demise, and then you end up inside that hotel room. And I promise you, they ask you not to sit down or lean on the exhibit, but I had to catch my breath walking into that hotel room. This is his last interview. And of course, I think, is it Jamelia? Jamelia. You were talking about the fact that, any movie that deals with race gets you riled up. I certainly picked this one up, the 1619 Project, especially because we are just dealing with critical race theory. And I want you all to know, Cary, thank you for inviting me. I am running for re-election for House District 113. And at this point, we flipped the district back in 2018, but at this point, I don't even have a Republican opponent. I mean, I only have a primary. And I'm so proud of the work that we've done. But as hard a working Democrat as I am, I know we're trying not to get political, but it's hard because I have somebody running against me that's trying to run to the left of me. So y'all pray for us out here. I just am inspired. So Cary, thank you. Thank you so very much that on today you would be so diligent and mindful to reach out to me and make sure that I was able to join today.
Absolutely. And we will reshare this, Rhetta. Thank you for all you've been doing and continue to do. When is your race? Election?
Election day is March 1st, and early voting is Valentine's Day. So it's coming fast. So thank you so much. I appreciate y'all, and I'm inspired. Thank you for promoting me to a panelist.
Oh yeah. Hey, we're all so happy you could be here. Does anybody have any questions for Rhetta?
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Rhetta. And I followed the exodus to DC with such respect and, so much courage, which is what we all need. Courage is what we all need to keep us, to make the change we need to make. So thank you. I'm very grateful to you.
Rhetta,
thank you. It's hard when you just say that cliche phrase, I seek to be the change I want to see.
Yeah.
At some point, as Leslie, as you said, and Faye said, you got to put it into action. And I think, Cary, before you go on, Barbara Jordan's quote just has stuck with me, that there's too much at stake for government to be a spectator sport, and we can't sit by the sidelines and be silent. So, Cary, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just going to ask for your website.
Sure, it's rhettabowers.com. It's pretty easy. I'm glad we finally got it to that. So it's www.rhettabowers.com.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I put that in the chat room.
Thank you.
So we're coming up on the end of the webinar, but does anybody else have, Jamelia or Faye, do you have a question for Rhetta? Just curious.
I do have one kind of question comment. Going back to Faye's comment earlier when she was talking about we shall overcome. In that, it kind of says that, well, when you look at the we side of it, it kind of says that it's one-sided. Like, who is we? Because when we shall overcome, it kind of leaves room for that other side as having no work to do.
Like they're
right?
the they.
Yeah. And so how do you fix a problem when that other side doesn't even see that there is a problem to overcome, right? So I have a feeling that might be what Rhetta you deal with
A lot. Yes, ma'am. And I think, we all know on this call that the we is all of us. The we is all of us. But the song does lend itself to the we just being Black Americans and African Americans, that we carry that burden and that we are the only ones that are trying to overcome something. But in reality, the we is all of us as collective. It should be. Because we know that even through all of the pandemic and all that we've gone through in these last 2 years, especially with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all of those senseless murders and killings, it is a collective effort. And that's why, I met Cary at the launch of Project Unity. And I have to talk about that, Cary, if you will allow me, because Project Unity is an organization. I'm a proud board member now. I wasn't at the time when I met you, Cary. But we strive to have bold conversations like this, Jamelia. And it's those moments that you begin to uncover the unknown, face the unknown, and embrace that that you walk away from fear. You get away from the fear of the unknown and you try to accept the differences and learn from each other. And my office has taken that to the legislature for 2 terms. We have had these conversations in the community. They're called Together We Dine, and they make you have courageous, safe conversations on race relations. And I've taken it to the legislature, and I'll tell you, it's been the most difficult thing making my colleagues have those conversations. And we try to have them before we start to debate very critical bills that affect everyone, like critical race theory, trying to erase history. Like we try to have those difficult conversations. And if I tell you, they're pretty revealing, Cary. I think you know that.
Yes.
They shy away from coming to the table on that.
And we know Charlene has been part of our group, our Cinderella CEO Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion group. So Jamelia and Faye and Leslie have all met her. And she, of course, has brought, and of course, Richie Butler, who's the founder of Together We. It's there. We hope that's something that we can, one, through you and how you've described it being utilized in the Texas legislature, how can we help elevate that whole concept?
I mean, this is just, the conversation before y'all could see me, and I was looking at you all and totally enjoying, so it was music to my ears, but these are the conversations that we have to continue having, that you're having in groups like this.
Yes.
And we cannot be afraid. Jamelia, as you've said, we cannot be afraid to open that door and come to the table and have those conversations. I think from what I hear over and over again as I attend those dines, I take away something different every day, and people's eyes are open. Even this moment, this was part of what I wanted to dedicate, my MLK Day to, is you all having this conversation with you guys. And then one other thing that I have to go do, but it's just refreshing to hear you talk about the need for action, and that what we have to do to create change. We cannot be silent. So thank you for the question and for this conversation.
It's a great question. And I will leave everyone with this visual. My creative director, partner, husband, Logan Broussard, developed this for the concept of bringing 2 rivers together. And it's called One River. And there is something, this is, I think, hopeful, Leslie, Faye, and Jamelia and Rhetta, that when you have 2 rivers running side by side to each other, it's a natural progression that the 2 rivers will come together as one. So sometimes, go ahead. somebody say something? So that action of the fact that rivers will eventually run together and become become a better, stronger river is something that I guess I just want to leave you with that visual to know that, the world will ideally come together, the different elements blend, the positive, the strength, the flow, the strength of the flow. So we'll all leave as one river. And on March 1st, hopefully, Rhetta, we're behind you. And
Yeah.
for those of you who have joined us today, I can't thank you enough. Faye, thank you for your voice. Leslie, your vision. Jamelia, your ongoing work in this space is inspirational as well. So thanks, everybody. Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Y'all please reach out to me. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Nice to meet you all.
Yep,
my
you
turn.
too.
Thanks for
Happy
coming,
MLK Day.
everybody.
They
I'll send you the recording.
say bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.